Okay, thank you.
Okay, I want to thank your society for having me this evening, and Terry and Dolly. I have DAR handouts. What is DAR? It tells you what we do as a national organization. And so that way, if you have questions, like I said, I don't spend the whole evening on what our functions in DAR is. So you can just look at these 3 pages. Next, we'll just get to genealogy. How do I begin? And with all of you being in a genealogy club, I imagine you know how to begin pretty much. But start with what you know. Speak with relatives. Start looking online. Visit libraries and archives. This is a fantastic library. Montgomery County should be really proud of it. Work with the DAR chapter. And I have later on some of this genealogical research system. I'll kind of briefly go through that, so you can log on to that and type in someone that you think might be your ancestor and see if they're even listed. Just a few little facts about DAR. I know it's on that. It was founded October the 11th, 1890, and it was incorporated in 1896 by an act of Congress. Our objectives are historic preservation, education, and patriotism. Our motto is God, home, and country. We have over 1 million members now in DAR, 3,000 chapters in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. We've got international chapters: Australia, Bahamas, Bermuda, Canada, France, Germany, Guam, Italy, Japan, Mexico, and the United Kingdom. Membership: any woman 18 years or older, regardless of race, religion, or ethnic background, who can prove lineage descent from a patriot of the American Revolution. So that's just a little bit of few DAR facts. So like I said, research reminders. As before, I said start with what is known. Always work from the facts that you have to the unknown. Record where the information comes from. That is a must. Document. Any Lineage Society is going to know where you got that information. Where was the source? I become obviously a paper fanatic. I print it when I see it, because I learned early on that if I found it and I didn't print it, I couldn't find it again. So I'm kind of a stickler when I just want to know where my resource was. Copy the title and the copyright pages. You should always know which book the information came from. Keep a research log of all the sources reviewed. Even if you do not find the documentation you were searching for, then you know where you've been so that you know where you need to go. Use clues only. Check the source citations and obtain the original records. So say you've got family tradition. Information passed down by word of mouth can be interpreted differently. Undocumented county histories in print and or online can contain truth or error. Just like Ancestry, you may log on and see, your lineage there, and it's like, that's not right, that's not my grandpa's birthday. I mean, there's a lot of great things, but then not everything is correct either. So look out for errors. Similar surnames or given names. Often the same name is found in different states at the same time. Information from genealogical indexes may have several different entries for the same person. So I hope your name isn't Jones or Smith. Family genealogies in print or online often repeat incorrect information over and over and over again. Lineage Society's books or applications may be older with few citations and documentation. Next, we'll go to like birth and marriage and deed records. Birth date and location evidence. Look for Bibles, church records, and tombstones. Look at a poll tax and jury list. Maybe evidence of legal age and if exempt, evidence of advanced age. Junior and senior may not be related. I have some of those in my family. It could be a younger and an older man in the same era. Marriage records. Witnesses and bondsmen could be related to either party. Marriage evidence. Look for land records. They may have contained information about the spouse and children. Death records may contain the name of the spouse, hopefully. Death evidence. Check for wills, guardianship records, letters of administration, probate records, or final estate settlements and inventories, which Jelly's gotten some of those for me, and they're in the big book that are big and are long, but they're really interesting to look at if you can find them. Check from the timeline of death to several years after. Land records. Use these to separate two persons in the same name in the same community. Proof of residence. Tax, jury, and militia list. These may be indicators of residence. Land records. Used to place individuals in a specific place and time. Deed books. There may be a power of attorney in the state or prior residence. Land location of land. This is not always in the county where the purchase is recorded. Record migration of neighbors and relatives. People in family groups often moved together. Documents for witnesses. They may be neighbors or relatives. Lineage generations. Wills. May not prove names or relationship, so look at deeds and other early legal documents. Draft registration, military, and pension files. Many have birth information and names of relatives. Birth records. Be sure to ask for the complete record or the certificate with the parents' names. Find the family in the census. More than one generation may be listed in a household with relationships. Death records may contain the parents' names. NSDAR applications and supplementals. Look in the GRS Ancestor database, which I'm going to hand out to you pretty soon. Check if the line is coded. And also look in the GRS Descendants database and check for common descendants in multiple generations. I do have a copy of this, but I'll hand it out when we're done.
Did you say look to see if it's coded?
There'll be, we'll get to that. They're in the genealogy thing. There'll be some of them might have a code, like they might be, I call it red line. There might be something, someone might have gone in on the ancestor and maybe it was a child and it wasn't the correct child. So they will put that on there and say, Ann Smith is not the child of William Smith. So it'll just be a code that they put on in the DAR site.
So to use that ancestor, you'd have to reprove that.
You have to prove, or if you're not using that child in that lineage, you're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be with child John instead of child Jane, so you'll be okay. But if you're Jane, you're going to have to prove the lineage in that. Okay, in your handouts, there should be a prospective member Dorothy contact information that if you're interested, you can fill out or keep in a file of your own. I'm a big folder girl, so when I put my generations, and everybody has their own different systems. This is just what I do. It's how I keep track of things. Some people just paperclip each generation and write on a piece of paper, but I use a folder and I put each generation. If I find their birth certificate, death certificate, census, I'll run it off and I'll put it in their folder. So I have it for later on when I need to use it. I have it in that generation folder. But like I said, that's totally your choice of how you like to contain all your information.
Well, and I forgot to mention that besides bringing several members into Dorothy Q while she's been registrar, Susan proved her first ancestor and joined the AR, and you've done 6 supplementals so far. So she proved 6 other ancestors served.
And I'm working on 4 more.
And she's got 4 more.
It's kind of an addiction, you know. I mean, they're all in the same family, like, you know, so, you know, the wife of the husband's dad was, and the wife's dad was, so there's 2 patriots right there. I mean,
So she knows how to do research.
So, it seems like most families are connected somehow, especially in the 1800s, you know. I mean, I think I even have a couple cousins married each other, you know. The second cousins.
Okay.
Yes. Second cousins. I better clarify that, hadn't I? So there's a contact paper. Also, if you find your patriot's name. These are just notes that you can take, put in a folder. You may have more than one patriot, you know, just jot down what you find. And even though you may find a patriot and all the information on him in different books, and he may not be in the DAR database, but if you can prove everything, I mean, every month they prove new patriots. So don't be discouraged if you go to the database and go, oh, you know, my patriot's not listed. But if you can prove that he was a patriot, you shouldn't have a problem. But like I said, you probably won't know the patriot number, but if you know your birth and service rank, lots of books have, Fold 3 has a lot of this if you are on Fold 3. It's got great service records if you're lucky enough to have your patriot listed in Fold 3. Also, you know, it's just not like I said before, it could be on your mother's side or your father's side or both sides. It's just, a lot of people go, well, there's nobody on my father's side, so I can't be a member. I go, it doesn't have to just be your father's side. It can be either side. So here's a worksheet if you can use at home. It starts with your generation, like I was born, then it goes to, you know, your second generation, your parents, grandparents, great, on down to whatever generation of patriot might be. So this is a nice worksheet. And make copies and write on them and scratch out dates and and here's the references for lineage. Like I said, this is an important page. You've got to have those references. Book number, page number, tombstone photos, find a grave. They will take that on find a grave. Sometimes it lists all the children, other times it doesn't. But most of the time it does have the correct, you know, tombstone with the name and the death date on it. So,
Hey Susan, when you talked about death records and birth records, did you say that we did not have to have certified? I didn't remember if you said that or not.
No, I mean, if you have the family one, and you don't have to have it certified. A lot of
well, I mean, you know, like some people go over to Fountain County for the death certificate for the person, and some people used to say DAR had to have a certified copy.
Well, I mean, if you're going to buy it, it will be certified.
But you don't have to.
But I mean, if you already have, like you've got a lot of records, she doesn't have to have any certification on it. I just print it and it just goes in birth certificate, you know, birth certificate, marriage certificate. I don't have to put, now if it came from Ancestry, I have to document that it came from Ancestry, that they want that documentation, and it's in here too, kind of. Then there's here, like I said, there's another lineage documentation checklist. I tried to cover, you know, it's a different way.
Sometimes if you do not get a certified copy, you get more information.
if you don't have, I know.
The certified copy goes into the form that they use today to create the certificate. And if there is record, information in that early record that is not on today's form, they don't transfer that over.
And really, if you request it.
I had found that in Tippecanoe County, I got some records from there and they didn't put the mother and the father, and it's like, I paid this money, I need mother and father on it. You know, the mother, father. So yeah, you have to request that, because I learned that too, that they won't put it on there. And I think, you know, I've done a lot of research at the research library in Tippecanoe County, and I love those ladies. But they also agreed with me. I said, you know, the health department isn't very friendly in Tippecanoe County. And she goes, no, you're right. So.
I just want to tell you real fast, I had gone to Wabash to get a certified death certificate, and they were putting a birth date in there with the birth location, and it had the old, on the original, there was like the old abbreviation for Indiana, which was IA. And so on this one that I went to get, that they filled out, they put Iowa. And I was like, okay, Iowa wasn't even a sparkle in anybody's eye at this point. So now I have this wrong certified form because I didn't check it before I drove away. So yeah. So it's still still not.
And I did include a pedigree chart. A lot of, I'm working on First Families of Ohio, and they want a pedigree chart. We don't have to have it for DAR, but some lineage societies do want one. Pioneers of Indiana did not. I just joined them. They didn't ask for a pedigree chart, but they did ask for all of this, like I said, all this documentation, all the birth, death, marriage, census, and document them. They weren't as picky. I thought they were a little easier going than First Families of Ohio is going to be a stickler. They want everything. So, but anyhow, this is just for your reference. I did include on the application formatting reference sheet for your application. And I mean, you can just look over this. This is how they want things. Obviously, the state abbreviations, qualifier abbreviations, month abbreviations, how they want dates listed. But the one I use the most is the next page on the documentation page, because I sit at my computer with this by me when I'm doing the documentation, because everybody wants documentation just a little different. So this is like certificates or just BC. Say like you're the first generation, you'd be like BC, my birth certificate, my husband's birth certificate, and our marriage certificate. So it would be BC, BC, BC. Generation one's done. But it's when you go down farther, it's just lists on how they want, census is listed, how they want, diaries listed, driver's license, funeral home records, just an idea of how to, tax records, how they want it listed. And like I said, anything that you got from Ancestry, Family Search, wherever you found that, you put that on there. Or they like to mark these up, they'll slash it and they'll put something.
Sounds like my high school English teacher with my essays.
Okay, real quick, I'll go through if you log on the DAR site, it'll show at the top, different little things, and you just click on the genealogy research, and then it's gonna have on it an ancestor database, member, descendants. You're gonna click on your ancestor if you know it, and guess. I mean, just if you only know last name, put in the last name and see how many ancestors show up with that last name. And then if you know who he was married to, it's kind of a process of elimination, you go to one, and I mean, I was fortunate, I knew who their wives were where they were located. But you kind of have to play with the system and see, you know, if you know who the Patriot's wife was, click on all of them so maybe you see the wife's name show up.
If you know the last name, it could be spelled different ways,
And yeah, spell the last name different, lots of different ways, because,
and then it'll show up eventually.
and it'll show up all the different,
The last name and the state would help narrow it
yeah,
down.
it would, it would. Because it'll have last name, ancestor, first name, state. You probably wouldn't know the ancestor number. You might know their birthday, and you might know their spouse's maiden name. You just, it's kind of a, you just play with it. Just throw in names and dates and just see what pops up. I put just an example of one of my Patriots, Andrew McKee, and if your ancestor shows up, it'll have their service, their birthday, their death, their pension number, and their service description. Also, it shows their residence and their spouse's name and their ancestor number. So this is what we want. If yours comes up, it'll look similar to this. And which gives you a lot of information because you may not know who their service description is. You know, this one's Captain Adam Ziegler and Colonel Irvine. So it's a thing it's a tool that you're just going to have to go on. And Deli has lots of Patriots. I know she could. And I mean, these are all the children. I mean, a lot of them. Andrew, if you know what the next generation is, it goes by their child. So this is my Patriot that these people went through on child. Andrew, these went on Thomas. My John never had been gone in on. So I had to make sure I had the land records. I had to prove everything about child John because nobody had gone in on John. Since I'd gone in on John, 6 other people went in on John. So I did that a favor with all my John records.
Hey Susan, I had a question. You're showing that, that's what we can see from the DAR site. Now, if a person is a member, like Shannon is a member of the DAR, can she see anything differently than people that are not members?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I can, as registrar.
Only DAR officers can see.
Yes, only that. As registrar, I could go in and look at her grandmother's original application. I couldn't print it, but I could look at it and see what resources they used, which was nice. I wish we could print it, but they won't let you print them.
They'll let you buy it.
I don't think they'll let you buy it on the application either. So I took pictures of a lot of stuff on my phone. So
A long time ago, I heard, 20 years ago, I was going to get in DAR, and they said, oh, once you get in there, you can find so much more stuff there because it opens all these doors. It doesn't open those doors.
well,
on
I mean,
the
it
website.
does if you don't know. Like this goes to this Andrew, the next page. Like generation 1, 2, and 3. I'm generation 1. My parents are generation 2. My grandparents are generation 3. Say you don't have a lot of information, dates for some of these in the other generations, you can see all of those. It'll fill in a lot of blanks for you.
Okay. Yeah, but that was just one of the things for membership. You know, so then you'd be able to see more records that's not available to non-members.
Well, I
I think you
guess.
can get to several things.
I think you can get to several things because there's a descendants database that you can look at besides all the Patriots.
Okay.
So it's another thing. It's time consuming, but you have to play with it. Like any site you go to, you kind of play with learning ancestry. You went from one thing, then there's all those little side records that you learned. Oh, I can click on them. It's going to show something else. So every site, one thing kind of does lead to another.
Generations are restricted because there's too long. They have to be restricted. And then here,
And I know you all know that You get your marriage record from the clerk's office. And you get your birth and death certificates from the county health department. No matter what state you're talking about, you're gonna go to the clerk's office to get a marriage record. I had to go to Frankfort and Clinton County one day to get a marriage record. Out of state, you can call and give them your credit card or whatever. Some sites, you can pay with a credit card online and put your information and they'll mail it to you. Library Virginia, purchased a lot of records from Library Virginia, but they're very pricey. They want $45 a document. So you have to make sure that that's the document that you really want before you purchase it. But we're fortunate Delhi has everything. I wish we had, Fountain County has a good little one, but nothing like what you have here.
Well, now Fountain County now and Warren County have split up a vital office in Attica, haven't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I heard that, how the Warren County and Fountain County Health Department was together
Oh,
for all
yeah.
those years.
Yeah.
They subdivided.
Oh, really?
And I heard that Fountain County is supposed to be moving in what used to be Maple Corners.
I have heard that. Yes. But like I said, if you need records, contact, just go online and search for the Historical Society. Call the clerk's office, call the courthouse for, a marriage certificate. And because that's what I did at Frankfurt. And I knew what I was looking for, so they didn't have to pull out 50 books and search for it. Because you find a lot of information that somebody's put on there, like this marriage record was found marriage record, Frankfurt, book 2, page 429. I thought, sweet. So when I went to Frankfurt, I said, well, this says it's in book 2, page 48, and it was. So she printed it and I paid for it. So, but just because it's not local, they can give it to you.
There's something that you've not mentioned. We do have some male members. And
Oh, yes.
If they want to join SAR, they could use a DAR member of a relative for them, and it will go right straight through. If that's for a DAR number of a mother or a sister, you can use that as a reference, and
Yeah.
I can go right straight through to SAR. But that doesn't work the other way around. DAR will not accept the SAR.
Oh, the SAR? No, they won't.
No.
No. Now, Pam's fortunate. She can piggyback on. It's called piggyback. And that's what Shannon did. Her cousin was a member. So basically, all their applications done except for Generation 1. And you piggyback, and 2. And you can piggyback on their application, and that makes you...
Providing that line is still open.
Yeah, providing that. But that, for a lot of people, that's a big deal. But regardless, there's documentation out there. You just may have to dig for it. Like I said, I'm working on 4 more that are, in the same different families, but they're related. I need one piece of paper. One piece of paper that shows that Philip is the son of John. Now, he is in the will, but I did learn from one application that Dolly was helping me on, this Thomas Patterson I was looking for was in the will. They wouldn't accept it. And they said it didn't prove that it was his son. It needed a paper that said Thomas is the son.
Well, sometimes probates will have that, but
So,
that
yeah.
one just didn't happen.
Most of them do. That one just didn't. So she went to a different patriot. So this lady did join, but we quit the Patterson line and we started to look for information on another line. But like I said, it's out there. I go to Preble County, Ohio every other year. My families came from Virginia and Pennsylvania, Maryland, and you know how they all go to Ohio, Kentucky. So Preble County has a fabulous history library, a lot, really Dark County. I think the counties in Ohio have really great documentation. So if you have somebody from Ohio in there, you might be lucky. Kentucky has a lot of burned out courthouses,
Oh, dear.
and there's quite a few that you can't get documentation for because the courthouse is burned. So,
If they look at the GRS and there's a pension number listed,
yes.
they can get a copy of that pension record from the National Archives.
Right, right.
And that might
And
give you
like,
more information.
and like I said, Fold 3 also has those pension records.
Do they have them on full team?
Yes, if you're lucky enough, you're Patriots on that, and they'll have the whole, one of mine had 46 pages of records in his pension folder. So I printed them all.
Not every county clerk who tells you that the courthouse
Has
burned or was flooded is actually telling you the truth.
Really?
They may not know, and they may just don't want to look.
That's true too. Yeah. So if you don't live far and you like to make a road trip, like I do, well, my grandparents are buried in New Paris, Ohio. So we've my brother and I have carried on the tradition that my dad and sisters did. They decorate the graves. So every 2 years we drive and decorate graves. And I do genealogy research. So they are not forgotten. Any other questions? I know Deli has loads of things here. If you happen to know your family history, I have bought from Higginson Books. I don't know if you've heard from Higginson Books. I was lucky enough that they did have my Dill book and my Gentry book, and these were lifesavers when it came to a lot of documentation for me. Not every family is listed, and I'd want to make sure before they print them when you order them. So it's not like they have them all in a shelf. But it has loads of people. This is even, what year was this? This is a little old. But if you pretty much know that, your Michael Jackson was an immigrant from Ireland and moved to Hartford, Connecticut, and then this might be a book that you might want. But I wouldn't just order one and think, oh, good, it's going to have anything, because you might be stuck with a book that doesn't belong to your family. But anyhow, I was lucky. This was a good source for me. And besides, find a grave, there's billion graves index. There's just so many things that you can search to find documents. Anybody have any questions? I think I've gone over my 20 minutes.
That's great.
No? Question? Anybody question? Well, I hope this has been helpful, or will give you a start anyhow, of what to start looking for when you're doing research. And I know you all probably know most of this, but like I said, I would say the most important is your research documentation.
I have a question. How do I ask it? I have an ancestor. His name was John Martin.
Is what? I'm sorry.
John Martin.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of like the Rockville SAR chapter is named for him.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a large percent of the members of the Park County DIR chapter are members
I've gone through it.
descending from him. But the last time I went on the DAR website, it says that you can no longer become a member under him. Presumably because somebody else decided that John Martin, that served under George Washington at Yorktown, was their John Martin. And we are the ones then that have to prove that
I
he
know.
is our John Martin. Okay, that's not my real question. My real question is, if I wanted to go in, wanted to add, I'm already a member, if I wanted to add somebody, a supplement, that was an ancestor of my mother, who was a member under John Martin, could I use her number for the generations from my mother back to, say, my great-grandfather, when John Martin is my great-great-great-grandfather? Can I use the information in between, even though I don't think I could use it for John? Because they're saying that our information on him is not enough or not correct or whatever. Can I use that in between
Because
information?
even like if we piggyback on somebody, and say it went from the Patriot and the next 3 generations, and then a different child comes into view here, then I would search on somebody else that has gone in on him to see if that child, and then I put their number on the references. So you can have 4 or 5 numbers in your references of people with different applications. On different applications. Say I took John Martin from number 15056, and then it's the same 2 or 3 up, and then the next child changed, but it's number 92769. They have that on their application. So you can piggyback as long as somebody else has proved that person, that child. You can prove it all the way up. Does that make sense?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Pick how far you want to go back, pick that person and then go forward from there.
Yes.
As long as that information
Yeah,
is
if that
verified.
information is correct and somebody's gone in and
On all the other generations between me and John Martin, I can use that there.
yes.
But I just can't use John Martin as an ancestor. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, unless you can prove it's your John Martin.
You would have to redocument everything about John Martin.
Yeah,
That's what I-
well, I'm going to have to do that. I've got one like that too. I've got a Micaiah Vi, and his son was Jonathan. Well, Micaiah's brother, Jonathan, also had a son named Jonathan, and they have
Sounds like
that
Harvey's.
that Jonathan under Micaiah, and it's not that Jonathan, it's my Jonathan. So, yeah, I can do it, it's called an analysis, and you document everything, prove your lineage to that, and they will review it.
I would love to prove that he's my John.
I would love to prove, well, I
I'm
am
not
bound to
sure that's
determine, I'm
how
gonna
good
show
I
them it's my Jonathan.
Are you a descendant of John Martin?
So, yeah,
There's a Martin family in Fountain County.
I know, I lived down the
You could be
road
a
from him.
descendant of a John Martin.
I lived next to John Martin.
But it's, well, it's not the same Martin family, I'm telling
It's
you.
not John and Norman.
They're not the same family, no.
Okay.
Not unless it goes clear back to like maybe a brother to John, if he had a brother, I don't even
I
know.
think they're all buried in the Green Bay Cemetery.
Yeah, but it's not the same family.
Okay. All right, we could go on forever. Yes. Here's just last kind of what I went over at the beginning. That way you have a copy of it. Yeah, genealogy is kind of non-ending. Yes. So I don't want to bore you. Thank you for having me. If you have any questions, ask me, ask Terry.
I didn't get one with the colors.
And I appreciate you letting me come. Thank you.
I don't know how to follow that.
Or are you back there going,
No, I don't know how to follow you.